So maybe it caught your attention as well as mine, where Jesus' relatives come to seize him because they thought he was out of his mind. Families are really complicated. And in some cases, if families think that you're out of your mind, it might actually be a good thing. Think about that. No, I'm teasing. But the reality is that maybe the scripture readings today give us an opportunity to look at family dynamics and to see if maybe there's a connection between our families and our relationship with God. So there's a theory, a psychological theory, that I'd like to share with you. It's from Mary Bowen in Family Systems. I believe, whether we're aware of it or not, or we want to admit it or not, this theory is pretty operative in our lives and in our families. You see, the theory says that we are all looking to be individual people. But at the very same time, as we desire to be individuals, there's a need, a human need, to be connected to other people. And so, especially in our early years, but all throughout our lives, we are always doing this dance to be able to say that I'm an individual, but yet I'm still connected. And so in families, you can see how adolescents give problems to their parents because there's this kind of dance that goes on where they think they could be their own person, but they really can't be. And that goes on even into adulthood. And so the theory says it causes anxiety in us. And we're likely to respond to that anxiety in one of two ways. The first is that the need to be connected is so strong that I give up being differentiated, being an individual, and I enmesh in my family, and I lose myself. Or, on the other hand, the need to be differentiated, an individual, is so strong that I literally cut off from my family. Now, you can think of all kinds of experiences in your own life where that's happened. And it happens or rehappens, and we play this thing out over and over again. And so it makes me wonder, what is our relationship with God like? Because at the very same time, we're always thinking we can do it on our own, and then recognizing that we can't, that we need to be connected to God. And so the first reading from Genesis makes a lot of sense today. Because Adam and Eve were trying to be their own people, their own individuals. And God gives them everything they need. But look at what happens. The serpent enters the scene, and there's kind of a triangle that gets created. You see, Adam and Eve need to have their own identity, but yet the serpent comes in and says to them, can't you see you're being enmeshed in this relationship with God? Do this. Eat from the tree, and then you'll be your own person. Don't we do that? Don't we believe that there are things in our lives that we can hold on to that will give us life or power or happiness, and in fact it takes us away from God? So they cut off from God, and they find themselves naked and afraid. And God comes forth with such a powerful question. Where are you? Where are you? He knows where they are. He knows everything, right? But why is that question so powerful? Because they have become independent from God. And that's exactly what happens to us. That we find ourselves disconnected from God because of sin. But God's grace is so powerful that God never gives up on us. Even when we turn our backs. You see, God pursues us. God goes out of his way to be connected to us. And even when we feel isolated or alone, God's presence is so much a part of our lives that God is always breaking in. There are moments in my life where I feel poked at or pushed or pulled. And maybe you experience that as well. That's the Spirit of God at work in us. That's the power of God's grace that enables us to come together. Whatever goes on in our families, we're always trying to do that dance, to be able to be our own person, but yet to be connected. What does it take for you and me to recognize that God has a dream for you and for me? And he invites us into a collaborative relationship so that that dream might take on flesh. And in those particular moments where we feel we might be losing ourselves, it's God's grace that pulls us back into relationship. We've entered the season of ordinary time. So no more sprinkling rite, no more Pentecost. This is a moment where God invites us into the ordinariness of our lives. So maybe this week too, we might look at those relationships in our families and ask God to help us to make better connections, to be able to forgive each other, to forgive ourselves, to be able to allow the grace of God to continue to call us to be our best selves.